All
Good on Void.
right, guys. So, for the purpose of like the next bit of discussion, I'm gonna have only a few of us talk, and if I need to start mass muting people, I will do so. So, if you feel like you're gonna have any background information coming on your end, feel free to mute your mic now. But with that in mind, Reaping You was in coaching perspective for one of the teams, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
Radiant.
So myself, Grep, Reaping You, and was DV
Yeah, I was the
coaching?
other coach.
Okay, cool. So for the purpose of like this next little bit, let's have it just be the four of us talking, and then we'll open it up into having both chasers and trying to see who the other general base is. He still here? I'm lost. Maybe. All right. Well, maybe he's not. But anyway, we'll just kind of continue that sort of conversation from there. So, I guess let me take a look at just like the graphs of the game as a whole, because initially we were going in the favor of the Radiant. So, Reaping, you were coaching. You were not coaching a Radiant. You were
I
coaching
was coaching
Dire.
the Radiant.
You were okay, because I thought that Chasers, or I thought DV said that he didn't want to coach Chasers, or was that Chasers just saying that DV didn't want to coach Chasers?
No, I think he wanted me to coach him.
Oh, okay.
And then I got him triggered because I kept drawing and he missed CS mid, and it was pretty funny.
Oh boy.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, I kept drawing on his mid lane, and then he'd get mad and he'd blame me for missing CS.
I was hearing him yelling about missing CS or something. I didn't know.
Did did you just draw like the letters CS lol or something?
Yeah.
Did you really?
It was pretty funny.
Oh man, that's kind of silly. Okay, so Reaping, give me a rundown of like how like the early game phase was going for the Radiant, because I mean that's kind of where they were, showing a stronger foothold until the Meepo kind of started to snowball, which really came behind like the Boots of Travel pickup more so than anything.
Yeah, so I mean, naturally, when you have a meepo on the other team, your early game, especially with our lineup, is going to be a lot stronger because we have a Luna, which is actually like a really strong early game hero. And then we were also going for a little bit of push because we have SD and we have Luna. So the idea was, okay, we have SD, we have Luna, we go and we push. We can push early and early mid game. Eventually, the Meepo is going to get online, and we'll have to address that and itemize around that. But for right now, we can just secure this. So that's what we try to do, and we did it pretty well. We had like a really good tower advantage. Going into the mid game, we had like we were like 4 towers up on them or something similar to that. But we had lost a couple fights to the point that we weren't ahead because of the towers, but we were broken even because of the towers. Is probably what happened. So it turned into a game where we weren't able to take. It turned into a game after the early game where we weren't able to take fights really well because we didn't have that item and that gold advantage. And we weren't able to take Roshans. That was like a really big deal because we lost 2 fights that were really important fights because the Meepo had Aegis, and there was nothing we could do about it because we did not have that map of control, even though we had those towers. Because you can't have map control, even if you have towers taken from the other team, you can't have map control if you still can't fight them. If you still don't have the items to be able to fight them. So it turns into like a really difficult game after that. It's the same concept as if you have like a drow strat and you start falling behind early, or a drow strat and you break even during like mid game, where it's like you know you have a lot of push and you do good damage, but the other team also has really good damage and they have the tools to be able to get on top of you and start just destroying you. And Phases of Void is really fucking good at that because Chrono is a good unit, basically. Like you can't. It's really really difficult to play around Chrono, It's always been difficult to play around Chrono, and the only way you're able to super play around Chrono in our situation was you disrupt the person that gets chronoed and they have invulnerability for 2 seconds and they're still going to die afterwards because you still have half the duration of chrono left and stuff like that. So there wasn't really a lot of good ways to save them. Same concept as when you have when we lost a couple of fights, the one chrono mid and the one fight mid that we lost 4 people close to their mid T2 when we pushed that the first time. That was probably the one that really started turning the game in their favor because we lost 4 people and we didn't really have the counter momentum after that to be able to take good fights. The Meeple was starting to get really big. It was really difficult to kill him. Even if we had like clockwork focus him with blade mail and other things like that, it's very difficult to kill Meepo when he starts getting a lot of those stat items up, and there's just like not a whole lot you can do once you're there. So either you're blowing a lot of stuff on the Meepo to try and kill the Meepo, and you're ignoring the Terrorblade and the Silencer and like everyone else and just focusing on the Meepo, or you ignore the Meepo and they kill like half your team and you still only have them down to half HP.
Sure.
So it's a really difficult situation to deal with. If I could have replayed it, I probably would have tried to coach them into taking an earlier Roshan and itemizing to try and maybe get a little bit of negative armor or maybe a medallion or something like that on someone. Something for us to take a Roshan.
So, I mean, but for the Roshan, that would have required you being a little bit more proactive with just kind of checking on it as a whole.
Yeah.
And, I mean, your team was doing a pretty good job on it after the first one was taken, but it really didn't matter in the long run.
Yeah, it's really... Unless you have like double ward on the Roshan against Meepo. Meepo can always jump into the pit and just like kill Roshan. Especially after he has blink. There's always like a good angle that you can take out of ward range if you know where their wards are, blinking into the pit and just killing Roshan and you have no idea. Because Meepo's off the map a lot of the time when when he's not pushing a tower or pushing side lanes, he's going to be in the jungle. And there's a lot of clamps to clear in the jungle nowadays. And it's like, well, if he's not off the map, maybe he's like going in the jungle or something like that. And it's just, you call it wrong, and next thing you know, you are letting Meepo take a Roshan. And unless you are able to really, unless you're already like there to kill him and like ready to like jump on him, he's going to get away with it. There's like not a lot you can do. The thing that we could have done better is probably after we saw him get blink, which I don't know if we saw him get blink before he got the first Roshan. I'm not sure what the timing was.
His blink was 17:30. First Roshan was around 10 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so he probably smoked
First
Roshan?
Roche was like 18, I think.
Was
Yeah,
it?
I thought it was...
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. 18:29.
Okay, so it was right
got
after
the
he
blink
got
at
blinked.
17:30. Yeah, my mistake. It,
Just
shows,
Okay,
blinked
so-
into the
it
pit.
shows Aegis
Okay.
on the.
So
on the bar.
so this
I
is
can't believe I
super
didn't
relevant
notice
what
that.
I'm saying. So if he's blinking into the pit, the only way that we are checking the pit outside of ward is rocket. And since we did not know the blink dagger timing, we cannot reliably check that. It's just like that sixth sense thing where it's like, Meepo's been off the map for like a minute now. Maybe Rocket Roshan or something like that.
Yeah, your team was being pretty
And-
proactive about, Meepo's off map, or we don't know where he is. Let's dedicate our resources to finding him wherever he is. So like I noticed a lot of the rotations of your team kind of panning around in that sort of format.
The only I think the other thing that we probably could have tried to do is smoke ganking earlier, between tower pushes, and trying to pick off the Terrorblade.
So let's make this more of a dialogue rather than a monologue.
Yeah.
Because you're just throwing out a lot more rhetoricals of what we should have, whereas we really want to look at it as this is what we did. This is the other direction that it could have gone in. So like if we can take it away from being a rhetorical.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think about it because like it's hard for me to think about because I was sitting there like already thinking about these decisions, and I'm like already thinking of like the changes that I would have made.
So DV, what do you think happened that allowed your team to really just kind of assert yourself forward, aside from some of the plays that Chasers was able to make off of the Meepo? Do you think there was anything that the Dire was able to capitalize that the Radiant wasn't able to be, aptly set up to defend against? Or what's your kind of thought on it?
Alright. Well, our early game was rather rough. We pretty much... Our first good fight was when Void got level 6 and chronoed the Luna in lane. And then we got another
that was
kill
a
on the
beautiful
support.
chrono, by the way, I have to say.
Just on the
That was
edge,
beautiful.
it was great.
And then I would have liked to see the Clockwork Rocket Flare and Roach more, because I think once Meepo got that Aegis, it was able to propel him forward to the Scythe of Ice, which helped him kill Ember so many times, just solo picking him off. As
Actually,
well as...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and in late game team fights, we had a lot more counter initiation with the Trono and the Global Silence, and you guys had decent initiation with the Clockwork Hook, but you didn't have much control to follow up on it. It was pretty much just trying to burst everyone down with Ember, Sustained Damage, and Luna Eclipse. And we kind of just tanked through with Meepo being super tanky.
I think, so from an outsider's perspective, I think the Clockwork, after the kind of failed mid-tier 2 push from the Radiant, like they got that tower almost down and then stayed a little too long and lost like 3 heroes. It felt like after that, their pushing stalled a lot more. They still did some stuff to tier 2 bot later on, but it felt like the Meepo and the Terrorblade had a lot of pushing going on. I think the Clockwork was kind of rightly focused on, if I don't rocket flare these lanes, then we're going to be just absolutely on our back heels the whole time. So I felt like the only counter was to really keep the split push going with the rockets to the lanes, SD Luna push to the lanes, but it felt like it was just going to be a little bit too late because the Terrorblade and the Meepo were out pushing them then by that point. It had to come just super early, like the timing window was a lot narrower than I thought it would be against that lineup to push.
Yeah, and your Luna was kind of severely underleveled for a long part of the game, because she had to stay with her team, because she could as easily get picked off by the Meepo as the Ember did.
Yeah.
So like when you guys were 5-manning, you guys were so far behind on XP. Like
Yeah, and
it was like 35 minutes in, and the Luna was level 16, which is not what you want to see.
It was also really hard because the Ember getting picked off 3 or 4 times or whatever it was really hurts because it puts his item progression very behind. And when you're going any build with Ember, it doesn't matter if you're going for cleave or if you're going for magic damage, which is like the flavor right now with 7.02 or 7.0 or however long it's been now. You still have to be, you're still the mid magic damage dealing core, and you need to keep that progression up. And when you just keep getting picked off, it's just very hard to do that. And the Meepo is like a great hero against Ember, especially with the change recently, because of Net holding down Ember. He's not able to remnant out through it. It's just like, it's like basically a straight counter. There's just nothing you can do to be able to escape Meepo now as Ember, other than having either Manta or Yules or BKB, whatever it is, to be able to break free of Net and be able to remnant out after that.
But a Yule's pickup would have been a Yule's pickup would have been nice, but it kind of slows him down a bit too much. Actually, it would have been really good to say to Silencer too. But
yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. Because who was playing the Ember?
It was the 5.4K. I don't remember what his name was.
His name is General Base.
Okay, so I remember mentioning him too. It was like, we need to get one of these items on you because, they have Silencer and they have Meepo. And these items counter both of them and fill in that weakness for you. But it's just, it's too late because he's not able to split with the team because we have to have our supports behind the Luna to stop her from dying or to counter initiate. Like when the Meepo when the Meepo went to try and solo kill the Luna bottom, I told them sit behind the Luna and bait her, and then kill the Meepo when he comes. And it worked, except the Luna still died because, I mean, Meepo did a lot of damage at that point and was able to get 2 rounds of poops off. So Ember, being Ember, wants to be by himself. He wants to be split pushing now, which he did. It opens up to that vulnerability against the Meepo where Meepo can just blink and net and just kill him, and there's nothing you can really do. So unless you fill in that vulnerability really early, when he doesn't have all his items to be able to start that, then it's very hard to get them then, because you have nowhere to really farm, because you have your Luna farming lanes and being protected, and you have the Luna also farming jungle. So it's just like, what do you really do? You're in a really tough spot.
I was kind of surprised actually to see the Emperor picked into that lineup, the heroes that were already shown. I think at that point, was it Silencer and Void?
It was Silencer and Meepo. I think he first faced Meepo.
Okay, so it was all 3 then, because I think especially with the route change, I forgot about thinking about how that affected the Ember. I don't know. I was pretty surprised. Do you think there was a different pick there besides the Ember that would have even things up?
Shadow Fiend. That's what we were originally thinking. Because then we could have gone for Shadow Fiend dominating the mid against Meepo, because you have a Shadow Fiend with really low base damage, but you also have Meepo has very low base damage at the same time. He's able to get those last hits off.
And you had a clockwork, so you could have cheesed the start and gotten him a bunch of damage.
Yeah, we could have done that too if we want. I think that's really minor, but yeah, that's a good point. We could have tried to do that as well.
I think that would have set you up a little better. And then you have a lot. Then you have still good push power with the raises, and that would have been. I think that would have been a little bit better, because the Ember was just, I don't know, that hero is going to have a rough time, and you kind of expect that you're going to need to build a BKB on a Shadow Fiend, and I think that would have served a little bit better. But that would have been interesting.
Well,
that would have been very close.
Or Manta.
Yeah, I don't think you wouldn't really want to do the old right-click Battle Fury build with Ember. I think the magic damage build was the way to go.
So many times
especially since like the magic damage across his team would, translate well for, Luna with the ultimate especially, and Flame Guard, and I mean, it sells itself.
When we were originally drafting too, the Shadow Fiend was going to be our mid, but then our mid player wanted to play the Ember, and it was fine for me because at the time I was thinking more like comfort picks, what they're fine with. Because
that brings a lot.
I mean, that's an important element.
It is. I think it's underrated. I think comfort picks are underrated. But in this case, I think it was too pre-counter.
Yeah, it was too much of a counter.
Yeah,
it was too much of a counter at that point. And when you're playing around with such a new mechanic that's such a small mechanic like root changing how Ember Spirit plays and stuff like that, it's almost to the point where it's like you just need to have more games on that patch, on that change, to be able to know that difference when you're doing drafting. And I don't think any of us there had that, because it's Ember versus Meepo mid. It's like those two meeting up like happens occasionally, but how many times in your pubs are you playing that and that matchup and you're paying attention to the draft? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the root mechanic versus something. Oh, it affects that one too. Dang! It's like I remember that the one that popped out in my mind was the Storm Spirit. I was always mindful of root mechanics against all of the other things that were previously ensnare kind of mechanics. So on the heroes that I would play more, so you're talking, things like you're talking about, what does it do to Mirana Leap? What does it do to Ricky Blink Strike? Those kind of things. And then to see, oh wow, Storm Spirit, that's a that was huge, because that was the thing, is his mobility, and it's like, oh, I got to get at least like an Orchid or something to stop that, and that's a much bigger item than a lot of the other ways to deal with him, or even just a lot of the abilities that could root. So that was pretty huge.
I think and I think it's pretty interesting too, because if you look at all the heroes that are countered by root right now, and this is kind of aside from the game, and I've been thinking about this for a while. If you look at all the heroes that are countered by root now, and then realize that if you have one int-based hero on your team that gets a little bit of farm, they can get a 3,000 gold item and counter any of those heroes that are on the other team.
Yes, it makes
It is
Atos a relevant
so-
item
Yeah,
for
and it
honestly
makes
the
it
first
very-
time.
yeah, and it's ridiculous, but it's also like extremely strong. But that's beside the point.
I mean,
Um,
Atos was relevant previously when it gave True Strike. Half the people didn't know it gave True Strike. Because
Yeah, I
no one
agree
ever
with
read
that.
the freaking item.
And then,
but
well,
I
then
mean, it
they
only was
removed
to an
that, and
extent.
it just
Yeah.
made the item useless for
Yeah.
like difficulty.
Can they do something with Halberd, please?
I mean, they
That
just
item
buffed
still
the
sucks.
meme again,
They
but
finally
it's still
they
kind
buffed it a
of.
little bit. They buffed the cooldown.
But
Make
anyway,
it a 10
so
second disarm. That'll be good.
anyway, so I digress to that. So Shadow Fiend was going to be the pick, and then instead we went with the Cumber for the Ember. If we did pick the Shadow Fiend, I think it would have definitely been a really strong pick. I think we already agreed on that, right? Because he's able to get his last hits in lane. They're able to push really strong, and then you have double auras as well between the Luna and the SF, and negative armor against Meepo is much better than like magic damage against Meepo because Meepo already has very high
Sure.
base magic resistance,
Hmm.
and he relies on stat only armor.
Hmm.
And,
I would second that because I would I don't agree with that because we picked up the Terrorblade knowing that whether you went to just counter the Luna initially, right? Because we were like, all right, they're definitely gonna pick Luna, so we're gonna go Terrorblade second phase. I knew you guys were gonna do what you guys were gonna do, and if whether SF was coming or not, right? Terrorblade also counters SF because one, he has low HP. We also get your high damage. It's like I don't think we would have had trouble to deal with it.
I mean, let's be honest again. Remember what our initial plan was before they banned the Naga. It was Naga with Chaos Knight Aghanims, Morphling Aghanims, and a Shadow Demon.
Oh
oh my god.
Alright, I'm kind of curious. Did you guys stat for the Luna? Because you had Shadow Demon, and you could have done that very easily, and I wasn't able to see. 'Cause I
Did
was
we
coaching
what?
there. Did you stat for your Luna?
Oh, did we stack? I don't think that they did.
No, there wasn't any of
I
that.
mean,
going
I
on.
was
There was no.
that's what-
There was no helmet
That's what
dominator.
me and Chasers do very often when we put Luna and like either Avenge or Shadow Demon. You just stat a bunch for it, and
Yeah.
it gets so far ahead. That's probably why. That's probably another reason why I felt like she was underleveled going into the late
Yeah,
game.
like,
And
I
no,
was
it was
abandoning the
definitely
lane.
relevant.
She was able to counter farm lane because after like one death, after the first death, I basically just once I had 1,200 gold, I was just kind of done with the lane. When it crashed at a tower, I'd go take it, but I wasn't gonna go any further out. I basically was just farming the creep camps whenever chasers hadn't already cleared them, and then stacking the ancients for him to clear later, and basically just walking back and forth between the camp and the tower. So there was pretty much free farm in the lane. I don't know if the stacks really would have. Like, I don't know if they were needed for a catch up. I feel like the lane farm was there at a certain point.
Yeah, I was so concerned with trying to get our early game secured and making sure we had a really good early game that I wasn't even thinking about stacking.
Hats off to the Ogre, by the way, on the first couple rotations. That was really well done.
Yeah, I think he only had a few games on Ogre.
He didn't
I
chase
did
any
really
Ogre.
well. Yeah, I know. I was like, look, just go mid.
Me
and
smork,
just, like-
me-
I am so
Oh,
used to
wow.
being
Bad.
3v1 mid. It's not even.
All right, guys.
I just,
So
like,
I
see
wanna
it.
I wanna
You
get
mean-
a
you mean
different
3v2.
perspective from the
Guys,
people
like,
that are
you're
here
level
now.
3.
Guys, hang on. Sky's talking.
Guys,
right
yeah,
there.
I want to get a different perspective from some of the people that were here in the game that may not really hear from just like in general. Would Jose or MC Tron be interested in giving us a little bit of their perspective of the game at all? Since you were probably some of the newer players that we had in this event this evening.
I definitely went into it trying to learn a lot, and really just trying to up my gameplay standard. I don't play a lot of support.
This is an awkward silence.
What?
What? No, he was talking.
What? He's
Yeah,
talking.
Chasers, he was talking. Chasers.
Where?
He's here.
Oh no, he was double talking in. Never mind, I had him muted. My bad.
Chasers,
Please continue.
for 2 seconds.
Yes. It's my bad. And just really trying to find those word spots that I haven't used in a while. It was definitely different to play at that level, especially with the role I haven't played in a while. But yeah, I tried and just tried not to steal fun and just pulled when I could.
Well, and you were on a hero that, as Sky and I were discussing early on, is basically going to be the sacrificial lamb, and you were in a lot of those fights. Hopefully you felt good about the outcome of those fights.
I know when you're avenged, you're going to swap into death or be in the middle of things and die a lot. So it's the way it goes.
Unless you're me, in which case you swap from 2 feet away and it has no impact on the game.
I mean, the thing that's cool about Venge is even if you're dead, you're still having a decent impact on the outcome of the fight, because that means that
Minus
you
damage
have
aura.
negative
Yeah.
damage aura. Everyone always underestimates negative, like what, 36% or whatever it is.
It's actually ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
How much it is.
And
It's
then
over
once-
a third.
Yeah, and then when you hit level 25, if you ever get there, just gets worse. It gets so much worse when you have that on you, because it's like, oh my god, I do no damage.
Yeah, 56
Tron, I'm
would
curious,
be silly.
what's maybe, if you can identify, what's the biggest thing that you learned during the course of the game?
Definitely some more about positioning during yourself for team fights and like watching the enemy positioning. Like seeing when to fall back or just kind of identifying what they're going for.
Would you say that this game was more fast-paced than some of the games that you're used to playing, even though you were playing on a role that's typically not as active in the games that you're usually playing in?
It was definitely, I mean, I play a lot of Meepo at my level, so I end a lot of games at 30, 25, 30 minutes, so it's different.
So you
but
like
it
seeing a
was more
Meepo on your team, you're
coordinated.
saying?
Yeah, it was more coordinated, and just the ability to have a reaction to something. Because in a pub, you're gonna die and nothing's gonna happen.
Do you buy F-Blade when you play Meepo?
I do not buy E-Blade. I go with the Boots of Travel, like Scotty build.
Okay, and Chasers can probably explain this to you better than I can. I'm not
It's a
a
food.
super good Meepo, but I played it. F-Blade, especially, like if you're playing in lower MMRs, people will actually you'll just be able to poof out because they won't know what to do when you E-Blade the Meepo they're focusing. They'll just be saying, oh shit, I can't right click this one. Okay, and then next thing you know, they're all just gone. Like it even in pro games, if you ever watch Abed play Meepo,
Yeah, I've seen it.
there's sometimes in pro games where the pros are like, oh, we actually can't do anything when he just E-Blades one of the Meepos.
I haven't
Like,
thought about it as an E-Blade to E-Blade defensively.
It's also because the thing with Meepo is, the argument of Scotty, you know why Scotty's because of the stats, and people used to buy just Reaver and Eagle Song and not finish the heart or whatever because you don't get the benefits on the other Meepos besides the stats. So the Reaver is basically 90% of the efficiency you're going to get out of the heart already. But the thing about E-Blade is Ghost Scepter gives stats, Eagle Song gives agility. So the entire thing actually benefits everything in addition to the active.
I just like E-Blade because it gives damage early, right? And since I'm one of those people that tends to first pick Meepo and shove it in my opponent's face.
You're like Abed. You're just insane.
I
You're just
am-
like, here it is.
Yeah, I am waiting for that Sven. I am waiting for that Winter Wyvern. I like the E-Blade to be able to like counter my counters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
You're never ready for the
I'm
Wednesday.
like challenging you guys. Like, come at me.
And then
Really-
they make an Earthshaker.
well, I come from Meepo playing a lot of Lycan and like Lone Druid before he got buffed, like 6.0 Lone Druid. So it's just that split push kind of mentality. Just to end the game because nobody else is going to be ending the game. They're going to be farming jungle.
Was there any? I'm curious, Tron. So that's you felt like you were picking up a lot about the positioning for the fights. Was there anything that you had a lingering question about that you kind of came up during the game? Or like, oh, what happened there? And it was too much in the moment to really think about it and get an answer from someone.
Besides the logic behind my Force Staff.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was Team 4 staff. We had 3. But just some ward positioning. I realized the one I messed up on, but at certain levels in PUBG, you just don't deal with counter warding at all, so you're immune to that.
Oh yeah, I understand where you're getting at.
And I mean, when I was playing with like 1K, 2K friends, you get occasionally somebody who'd counter ward, and that'd be fun.
I would
But,
think you get occasionally someone who would even ward. So I don't know what's the warding like most of the time in your games. Forget counter warding. What's just the warding like?
basically, you'll get 1 or 2 wards in the beginning from a support because it was in their buy list, and that's it. If you don't buy them, you don't get them.
I think one of the mistakes that we did make during the early game was that the top lane did not have a ward, and our Terrorblade always kept on dying due to these rotations. But yeah, I think we did end up putting one down, and then we started to realize that, hey, we have a Terrorblade that's level 6, we have a Chrono, we can do something.
Yeah, that was when we just went bot and with the first chrono and then just
Right.
shoved down the